Hello guys, ShaneZell here. Today we're going to go over a new tier list, Final Fantasy 1 for the NES, and we're going to go over how good all of the spells are. So I'm going to start off by going over all of the spells in their individual level. So like the expected times that you'll have each of these spells at the different stages of the game and how good they are. Then I can eventually, at the end, do an overall list by like the end of the game. So I'm going to go over all the spells in order, starting off with the first spell, Cure. The Cure spell is actually pretty neat, and that it's actually not super helpful early on, but it scales later into the game, and is always useful. So it's just going to go in the B tier. It's solid, it heals a little bit of HP when cast in combat or out of combat, it's the same. It's what, 16 to 31? So it's not amazing. It's technically like worse than a healing potion out of battle, but you spend 100 gold on it once, then it lasts you for the rest of the game. So it actually ends up being a helpful spell, especially later on when you only are casting your higher level spells and you ignore your low level spells. It's great for out of combat healing. Next up, we've got Harm. Harm is going to go right there in the B tier. It's not an amazing spell, but early on, against any undead you come up against, the white mage can cast Harm and just nuke down all the undead. Sadly, there's not a whole lot of undead early on. It can be helpful for extra chip damage against a Zombo grind at the Peninsula of Power, or if you're fighting groups of Geists or something similar, it can be great, but overall it's not amazing, but it is AoE at level 1. Next up, we have Fog. Fog is useful, I guess. It increases your absorption by 8, which is about half as good as a piece of chainmail or twice as good as a piece of wooden armor. It increases your absorption. It's helpful, but it's not great. It just makes you take a little bit less damage. It takes a lot of time to stack it up for it to be really useful. But I could understand people wanting to cast it and liking making like their characters tankier for specific fights. I just don't think it's amazing, but it is a usable spell. The next spell, on the other hand, is Ruse. This spell is very OP. I'm putting it straight into the S tier. It is useful for the entire game. Sadly, the only starting class that can cast it is the White Mage. Ruse increases your evasion by 80 points. If you cast this twice in the early game, you evade all physical attacks unless it's a guaranteed critical hit. And by late game, you cast it 3 times and you're immune to all melee attacks from everything unless they crit you. It is insanely powerful. And late game, you can also get this spell on your knights and your red wizards, and also this handy dandy little defense sword that casts the Ruse, so anybody can use it. It's an amazing spell. Always useful. Then we've got the black magic spells. Starting off with Fire. I'm going to put this in the C tier. It's not great late game at all. But when you first get it, Fire is one of the best choices for your black mage to deal damage. 10 to 40 damage up against most enemies. If they're weak to it, like undead, they take 15 to 60. It's just the only way the black mage can contribute early on, and it's guaranteed damage. Our next spell is Sleep. Sleep is, it would be better if it worked as intended. It was supposed to be that if enemies had under 80 hit points, and you cast Sleep on them, then they would have a chance to wake up. Instead, they wake up guaranteed. So you still could use it and put multiple enemies to sleep, and it'll use up one of their rounds. Like, let's say if you wanted to cast it on the pirates with your black mage to try to keep, your squishy mages alive longer. You could do that. I would recommend just nuking them down with fire instead to just kill them off, but sleep does technically work. Unlike this next spell, Lock. Lock is supposed to lower the enemy's evasion, but instead it just misses. It can never hit the enemies. It's a completely worthless spell. Never pick it up, never cast it. Our last spell is Lightning. Lightning is about the same as fire, except that less enemies resist lightning and less enemies are weak to lightning. It's great if you're going to be sailing around the ocean and beating up a bunch of enemies on your boat. It ends up being a useful spell. So this is tier 1. And in a moment we'll switch over to tier 2. And next up we've got our level 2 spells. Level 2 spells aren't quite as good as level 1 spells in my opinion, but we'll go over them anyways. Starting off, we've got Lamp. Now you may think I would put this into the F tier, but I'm going to put it into D tier. All Lamp does is remove the blind status effect from your characters. Blind doesn't do a whole lot. It does make it so your characters hit the enemies slightly less often, and that they're easier to be hit. It's not a large effect, and even though most people may believe that its darkness is completely bugged on the NES version, it does technically work. It's just, it doesn't do a whole lot. So I'm putting it in the D tier. It could be situationally possibly usable, but it's not a spell I would recommend. Next up, we've got Mute. Mute, I'm going to put into the C tier. It has uses. What Mute does is it silences all enemies. You know what? Let's move it up to B. There are situations when it can be useful. Unlike your white wizard or your white mage, you can mute Astos so he can't cast spells. If you're doing the Peninsula Power grind, you could mute the Frost Wolves so they can't use Frost on you. Like it's got actual usable situations. So it makes it better than the rest of these spells, really. I'll put one more up there at the B tier, which is Alit, or Bar Lightning, if you will. It increases the resistance to lightning for your entire team. If you're going to be fighting an enemy that you know is going to be casting lightning on you, it can be very helpful to keep your team alive. Now, it's the first bar spell you get, so it's not necessarily super useful immediately, but in long fights, depending on your party compositions, it can be quite helpful up against potentially Astos or Lich or much further into the game enemies. Then next up we have Invis, our last white magic spell. Invis isn't quite as good as Ruse. It's half of a Ruse, but instead of it being caster only like Ruse, you can cast it on any one. So it is useful. Your white mage who can be hiding in the back row can cast this on your like fighter or black belt, or thief I guess, and make them harder to hit. So it can be useful, but you have to stack it up quite a few times before it makes them impossible to be hit. Next up, we've got our black magic spells. These aren't quite as good as the white magic spells, and the white magic spells aren't that great either. Ice is going to go into C tier just because it's guaranteed damage on your black mage. It's going to be your best spell for your black mage. 20 to 80 damage. There aren't any enemies in the early game that are weak to ice, but it's still at least 20 to 80 damage, so it's something. The next spell is not very useful, Dark, which just blinds enemies, which does technically make them slightly easier to hit and have a slightly harder time hitting you. It is not super noticeable, but there could be niche situations where it might be useful, like like a solo black mage playthrough or something where you're trying to beat up the pirates. I could see it potentially being useful, but overall, probably not. Next up is a really good spell. If it worked, it would be an S tier, but it doesn't. Temper. Temper doesn't work on the NES version. I mean, technically it does. Temper increases your attack power, but the game never loads player attack power, so it doesn't actually do anything. If the enemy casts this spell, it would increase their attack power, and it would actually work. But the enemies don't cast Temper or Saber. So it's not something you have to worry about. For us, it just the game never loads your attack power increase, so it's a useless spell. Don't learn it. Then we've got Slow, the last spell on tier 2. I put it into the D tier. If Slow hits enemies, it can be useful. You can knock enemies down to a single swing, but most enemies that you're fighting throughout the game only have one swing. And the ones that do have multiple swings, you probably have better spells to cast than to try to lower their number of swings per round. So, that is our tier 2 spells. Not quite as potent as tier 1, but they still have their uses. Next up, we've got our level 3 spells. Starting off with the white magic, we've got Cure 2. Cure 2 is a pretty useful spell. I'm not going to put it quite into like A tier. It's a good solid spell. It heals your team or one person for what, 31 to 64? It's helpful, but it's not gonna like save your team in most situations. It is a good single target heal, whether it's in combat or out of battle. The heal spells are always useful, or the cure spells, sorry. Next up, we've got Harm 2. I'm also going to put it in the B tier. It's useful at, again, nuking hordes of undead, but as with Harm 1, it's only good on undead. So when you're fighting undead, it can deal good damage to them. It's not quite as powerful as Fire 2, because enemies that are weak to Fire 2 take bonus damage from it, and it has more accuracy on them. But it's still a useful AoE damage tool for your white mage. Next up, we've got A-Fire. A-Fire is also going to go into the B tier. It's usable in fights when you know enemies are going to be casting fire spells on you. So it can help out against enemies like Astos, or again, Lich, or if you're going into the volcano and you know you're going to be hit by like red dragons or something like that, carry, you can use it to reduce the fire damage that your team takes. It's a useful spell. In fact, you know what? I think all of our level 3 spells are going to go there into B tier. They all have their uses, and they're all about equal. Our fourth spell there is Heal. Heal will heal your entire team for 12 to 24 each. It's technically more healing than Cure 2, spread across your party. So it is a nice spell, even though it doesn't seem like it's a lot. If you're healing out of battle and your whole team needs to be healed, just spam heal instead of casting Cure 2 on individual characters. Next up, we've got Fire 2. Fire 2 is very useful. It's not quite S tier, but it's still a good spell. It's going to be probably your best damage up against most undead enemies, better than Harm 2, and just lots of different enemies throughout the game that are weak to fire. Hordes of anything you can just take out with Fire 2. Anything from like wolves to actual undead. It's great versus Lich when you get to him and many other enemies. Our next spell is not quite as useful. Hold. I'm going to technically put it in the C tier. It's not useless. You can use it. You can paralyze enemies like Astos or other single target enemies that don't resist status effects, even like carry, you can cast it on them and it can mostly render them useless because enemies only have an 8% chance to break out of paralysis compared to the player having a 25% chance. So if you cast it on an enemy and it lands, there's a good chance they're going to be stuck doing nothing for a long time. So it's actually not a terrible spell. Then we've got Lit 2. Lit 2 is great. Just like Fire 2, it deals the same damage, 30 to 120 against all enemies, and Lit 2 has... There's not as many enemies weak to Lit 2 as there are Fire 2, but there's a lot less that resist it. It's going to be your best attack up against the wizards in the Marsh Cave. It's going to be great on the ocean if you're earning money murdering Kaizakus or fighting sharks and Sahagins, and it's great at just taking all of them out. Then our next spell, Lock 2. I probably should make a new tier for this. It can go like FF. Instead of it just being useless and not working, Lock 2 actually increases enemies' evasion instead of lowering it. So it actually helps the enemies. So don't get Lock 2. It's pretty bad. Next up, we've got our level 4 spells. Here we have an interesting list of some of the worst spells in the game compared with some of the best spells in the game. Starting off with Pure. I'm putting it in the F tier. You could say, hey, you get poisoned a lot, especially early on in the game. You could put this into the D tier, but no. Don't buy this spell. It costs 4,000 gold. 4,000 gold to cure poison. Or you could spend 75 gold to buy a couple items. Please buy pure potions. Don't buy the pure spell. It is not worth it. Next, we've got Fear. I could also put this in the F tier, but honestly, it's better than Pure. What Fear does is it makes enemies run away. You can theoretically even make Chaos run away with enough casts of Fear, but it's mostly just a gimmick. Which is why I'll put it into D tier, is if you want to be silly and make enemies run away, it at least has its own little niche use that is fun. So it deserves to be higher than the F tier. Next up, we've got A Ice. Again, with the other A spells, I'll put it in the B tier. Usable. It is great up against enemies like Lich that open up with their first spell as being Ice 2. It's useful for resisting the damage that you take from like Frost Wolves or Chaos's opening spell, Ice 3. It's a good spell. So it has utility. Then we've got another A spell that shouldn't be an A spell. I'm putting it into the F tier. Just because it has A at the start of it doesn't actually make it useful. So like all the other A spells makes you resist an element for the rest of the fight, well, A Mute just cures silence. Doesn't prevent it, so you'd have to cast A Mute to remove silence from somebody. There are not very many enemies in the game that cast Mute. I believe there's like 4, and most of them don't cast it very early on, and even when they do, they're not a threatening enemy. You're going to have ribbons by then, probably on your spellcasters. So if somebody gets hit by Mute, if you care that they're silenced, they're probably a spellcaster. So A Mute becomes really pointless. Just, it's not a good spell. It's not. Let's move on to the black magic. The black magic, we have Sleep 2. This, I'm going to put into the F tier because it's a single target sleep spell. Again, sleep doesn't work as it was supposed to, so enemies will just instantly wake up if you hit them with it. Sleep 2 is single target compared to Sleep 1. You're better off just casting Sleep 1 in most situations that are very niche as it is if you wanted to try to put something to sleep. Don't get Sleep 2. It's bad. Then next up, this garbage spell, should go into the S tier. This is Fast. Fast is arguably the best spell in the game. When you first get it at level 4, it's not amazing. All it does is double your target's number of swings in combat. But as you get to any boss fight, it is very important casting this on your fighter or black belt if you're using a black belt as your damage dealer. It doubles their swings, which in turn doubles their critical hit ratio and doubles their damage output. It is very nice in any extended fight. It is an amazing spell. Then, next up, we've got Confuse. Confusion's not a very strong spell. It If it hits the enemies, it will make them cast Fire 1 on their allies. It's useful, I guess, in some situations, but overall it's not that great. It's not something you really want to be casting in most situations. Then our final spell is Ice 2. It's actually, it's tempting to put it down in the B tier because it's not quite as useful as Fire 2 or Lit 2, because early on in the game, nothing is weak to ice that you're fighting. But it does have high base damage up against neutral targets. Like if you're fighting ogres and grogers and stuff, it ends up being your best spell at that point in time. So it's still a good, powerful AoE nuke to hit all the enemies. So overall, we've got a couple good spells in tier 4, and the rest are pretty trash. Next up, we've got level 5 magic. These are the first spells you get once you are outside of the inner sea. And there's some pretty impactful spells here. Mostly good spells. Not all of them are good, but most of them are. Starting off with white magic, we've got Cure 3. Cure 3 I'm going to put into the A tier. It is your first healing spell that feels very powerful when you cast it on a single target. Healing like 64 to like 128-ish HP. It's the best healing spell a red mage can cast. Or a red wizard, I should say. No, red mage can cast it too. It's a good spell. I'm pretty sure red mage can cast it. I should probably check that before I say something, but whatever. Then next up, we've got the life spell. This is the first time you can bring back somebody from the dead outside of town. So I definitely put it into the S tier because it's going to be a spell that you're going to want your white mage or red wizard to be able to cast if somebody falls down in combat. It's a great spell. They only come back with 1 HP. It can only be cast outside of combat. But it's still nice being able to bring up somebody that fell to like an instant death ability or something like that, a random critical hit. It's great to be able to bring them back mid-dungeon. Next up, we've got Harm 3. With the other harm spells, I'm putting it into the B tier. It's helpful, it's strong damage, but again, it's only good up against undead. So it could be better. And up against the other white magic spells that you're competing with, it's hard to make room for Harm 3. Especially when you have spells like this one, Heal 2. Heal 2 is absurd for its level. So there's a bug in the game where Heal 2, when cast in combat, accidentally heals for as much as Heal 3. This makes it insanely powerful. Outside of combat, it's normal healing value, but in combat, it is so good. You can just use this to like fully heal up your team pretty well in any dangerous fight. Heal 2 is great. It is a go-to for any white mage or white wizard. Then we've got our black magic spells. Starting off with Fire 3. Definitely in the A tier. Fire 3 is your strongest weapon up against Lich. It's great at murdering hordes of enemies. It's good for additional Peninsula power grinding. It's a great, powerful spell. It is the last fire spell you get access to, but it's a good one. Then we've got Bane. I've thought about putting Bane higher, but I think I'm going to put it in the C tier. It is your first instant death spell that you get for your Black Mage. And it's AoE. It's a decent element in poison. Certain enemies are weak to poison, like Tiamat, so it has value late game, but a lot of times casual players will have a better spell than Bane for doing that. And in most just random encounters, you'll be better off using Fire 3 to kill them with damage more often than instant death. But it's not a bad spell. It has its uses, don't get me wrong. Then we've got Warp, a great utility spell. I'm going to put it in the B tier. In speedruns, Warp value is really high, but for casual play, backing up one dungeon, one floor, isn't quite as useful. It can be used to cheese through the ice cave, but of course, to get the warp spell, you have to have already gone through the ice cave once. Doesn't make it quite as useful. You can cheese some ordeals pillars, but again, to get warp, you have to class change and you have to go through ordeals. So a lot of its usefulness is kind of gone because you've already completed the marsh cave and the uh, the earth cave, places that you would really like the warp spell. But it still has its uses for late game. Then we've got the spell Slow 2. I should put it in the F tier, but I'm going to put it in the D tier. It technically has niche use cases. Again, comparing it to Slow 1, because this is the same spell, it just slows a single target. Now, Slow 2 is non-elemental, so you can technically even use it on enemies that resist status effects. If their magic defense is low enough, you could get lucky and you could land it on like Kraken to really neuter his swings. But if you're gonna land a lucky spell, you might as well just cast Bane and instantly kill him instead. But, I could see a use for it, but it's just not quite that useful. So it's on the lower end of your level 5 spells. Next up, we've got level 6 spells. Also accessible before you fight Lich if you go to Crescent Lake early. They are very expensive spells, they're 20k a piece, but some of them are useful, others not quite so much. Like this first one, the soft spell. Does it work? Sure. If you want to spend 20,000 bucks to get rid of petrification, you're better off buying a ton of soft potions. Soft potions are 800 a piece. The spell is 20,000. Buy soft potions. It's not quite as bad of a deal as the pure potions or the pure spells, but just buy the potions. They're way better. Next up, we've got another utility spell in Exit. I'm putting this into the A tier because Exit actually has a lot more use than the Warp spell. It just completely gets you out of a dungeon. You've gone in there, you've had some too many deaths, you've wasted too many spells, or you've gathered some loot, you want to sell it. Get out of a dungeon with one cast, great spell. Very useful. Then next up we've got Fog 2. Fog 2 is useful. I'll put it into the B tier. C tier? We'll say B. I can see it being... It's like really on the line. We'll leave it in B, sure. It can stay in B. What Fog 2 does is it just increases your absorption for your whole party. It's helpful, but it takes many casts of this to actually see some good effect. Instead, if you want to reduce the damage you take from enemy attacks, you should cast this spell, Invis 2. Invis 2 increases your whole party's evasion by 40. When there's 5 casts of that up in the late game, nothing's going to be hitting you. And if that gets stacked with like a ruse spell, then they stack up pretty quickly. You know, if it's like one person casts ruse once, or let's say twice, then you get one Invis 2 off, that person's immune to being hit by melee attacks. The best part of Invis 2 is there's an item called the White Shirt, which you can use in combat, and it'll cast the Ruse spell, or not Ruse, Invis 2 on your whole party. So between using the White Shirt and casting Invis 2, you can really up your evasion really quickly and make your entire team pretty much immune to physical attacks besides the guaranteed criticals. It is a lot better getting those up compared to Fogs, because it just makes you take no damage compared to taking slightly less, and Invis 2 also increases your evasion high enough that you avoid all of the non-guaranteed critical hits, while Fog 2 does not do that. Next up we've got Lit 3. Lit 3 I'll put into the A tier with Exit. It is your strongest lightning nuke in the game. It's great for going through the Sea Shrine and murdering hordes of enemies. It's also useful on Kraken and just lots of other random trash enemies because not a lot of enemies resist lightning, so it's a good spell. Next spell is not so good, Rub. You might think Rub is a useful spell because you see Astos casting it early on and instantly killing your party members. Well, too bad that Rub is the least accurate instant death spell. It's also single target, and it's death element. The death element is resisted by a lot more enemies than the poison element, and you get Bane at an earlier level, and it's AoE. Speaking of another AoE instant death spell, the next one is Quake. That's going in the C tier. The same as Bane, because it has actual use. Again, it's AoE, just like Rub, except Quake, you actually have more enemies you can hit with it being AoE, and it's actually even useful on specific bosses. If you want, you could kill Lich by instantly killing him with Quake. You can even kill Lich 2 with Quake, as well as, other normal enemies, but on most normal enemies, you just want to deal damage instead of risk doing 0 or killing them, when you can just use Lit 3 and deal guaranteed damage. And our last spell is not so useful. It is Stun. Okay, so Stun is our first spell in the power word death category. Stun is guaranteed to land if enemies don't resist status effects and they have 300 or less HP. It's not super useful. Most of the time, you'd be better off, casting a lower level spell like Hold if you cared about your spell slots. And if you're going for the guaranteed kill at 300 HP, there's probably some other spells to do, but I put it in D tier just because it technically has uses. It's not a spell I'd ever want to cast, but you could cast it and paralyze enemies. You just probably don't want to. At least we have a spread over the 6th tier of spells. Next up, we've got our tier 7 spells. And these are some late game spells that you don't have a ton of casts in most playthroughs. So generally they're going to have power level to make up for that fact. First off, we got Cure 4. Cure 4 is arguably one of the best spells in the game. You could say that it's close to fast. It instantly cures your character all their HP up to full health. If they're at 1, they can go all the way up to 999. It also cures all status effects from them, besides death and petrification. It's a really handy spell, especially for people that use black belts with their large hit points and low armor. Next up, we've got Harm 4. Harm 4 is not a bad spell. It's hard to compete with Cure 4. It's the White Mage's, or White Wizard's, strongest damage dealing against undead. So it has its uses, but it's only at like the middle of the pack. Like, it's good, but it's not amazing. Then we've got A-Rub. A-Rub I'm weirdly putting into the A tier over B tier, because A-Rub, unlike the other A spells, gives you resistance to more than one thing. A-Rub gives you resistance to the death element, as well as earth and status. So it can prevent spells like slow from hitting you. Most importantly, skills like crack that chaos uses. It ends up being very important if you're using 4 characters in your party like most casual players do, and you want to prevent some of these instant death abilities from just killing off your fighter that doesn't have a ribbon on. So it ends up being a very important spell. And it's something a red wizard can cast, not just a white wizard, or white mage even. Then we've got Heal 3. Heal 3 I'm going to put into A tier. It's still a great spell. I'm not ranking it as highly as Heal 2, because Heal 3 is 2 levels of magic higher for the same in-battle healing. It's better out of battle than Heal 2. But if you're using a white mage, which is the only ones that can cast the heal spells, you're probably going to want to use Heal 2 in battle. And out of battle, you can either Heal 3 or save those spell slots for Cure 4 to instantly heal a single character. So you have a better choice. But the white magic spells for level 7 are actually pretty good, unlike some of the black magic spells. We'll start with the good ones. Ice 3. Ice 3 is definitely an A tier spell. You could say that maybe it could be S tier, but I don't think so. At this point in the game, you have plenty of characters that can deal damage to enemies. There are lots of late game enemies that are weak to ice. Ice 3 does do some powerful damage. And if you're farming enemies like chimeras and chimeras, enemies weak to ice, Ice 3 can do more damage than Nuke. It is a good spell. The next spell is also good, but for different reasons. We've got Brack. Brack is the best instant death spell. It has high accuracy, and it's poison element. It has like a 1 in 3 chance of one-shotting Tiamat. Very helpful. And it can also hit other enemies, but at this point in the game, if you're casting spells that's on an enemy that's not a boss, you're probably just going to use like Ice 3 instead for just guaranteed damage compared to having a chance to one-shot them. You can also Brack Kraken as well if you haven't killed him by now, which, if you think about it, is kind of funny, turning an octopus to stone. Poor guy. Anyways, moving on to a less than stellar spell, Saber. You guessed it, Saber doesn't work. It's pretty useless. Don't buy it. You have better options. Another spell that's technically usable, Blind. It's another one of the 3 power word spells, so if an enemy is 300 HP or less and doesn't resist status effects, you could blind them. Not super useful. Very, very slightly increasing your evasion and lowering the enemy's accuracy. Lowering their evasion, sorry. And lowering their accuracy just slightly. It's not great. It's usable, but you shouldn't cast it. And that is all of our level 7 spells. Last up, we've got our level 8 spells. These are supposedly the best spells in the game, because they're the final tier of magic, but some of them are less than useful. You don't get any of these until level 25 on a white Wizard or Black Wizard? Starting off with Life 2, I'm going to put it into the A tier. It's not quite as useful as when you first get Life and can resurrect people. First off, 2 different character classes can cast Life, only one can cast Life 2. You can use 1 life, 1 spell plus a cure 4, and it's the same effect as Life 2. Life 2 is only out of combat still. It's not, it's helpful, it's a full heal as well as a revive, but it's not like a godly spell. Then we've got Fade. I'm putting Fade into B tier. It is the White Wizard's strongest spell. It deals 80 to 320 damage, but at this point in the game, it's just not quite as good as the Black Mage's nukes. It's useful, but you have other spells that you can cast. Speaking of the other spells, we've got Wall. Wall is probably one of the more important spells because only 3 ribbons exist in the game. You have a 4th character that can't resist stuff. Depending on what character class that is, you can just cast Wall on them and keep them alive. It's very handy. Our last white magic spell is, not that useful, Exfer. Exfer does not work when cast by the player. It's supposed to reduce the enemy's magic resistance, not reduce their magic resistance, reduce their resistance to elements. But it doesn't work because enemies' resistances can't be changed in combat, which is why they can't cast A spells for their benefit. Then we've got our black magic spells, Nuke. I'm going to put Nuke in the A tier. It's stronger than Fade, 100 to 400 damage, non-elemental. It's your strongest nuke against most targets. It can be helpful chip damage on bosses. It's a good spell, but you're probably still going to want to focus your black mage on buffing first, but it's still helpful. Then we've got a not so useful spell in Stop. I'm putting Stop into the F tier. Don't cast it. It's yet another AoE stun effect, but this one, like, is 8th tier, it's competing with the other spells, like, just use other stuff. I don't think it's that good. You've had 2 other paralysis spells. We don't need a 3rd one at 8th tier. Then we've got Zap. Zap I'm putting into D tier. It's instant death on all enemies, but it's incredibly inaccurate. The only enemy in the game that resists Zap is Chaos, so you could theoretically try to, like, kill anything with Zap, but it's so inaccurate that it's generally not worth the time. It's a very niche spell. Then we've got XXXX, another instant death spell, and the final power word kill spell. It's instant death to all enemies that have 300 or less hit points that don't resist the death element. It's neat, it can be useful to finish off certain enemies, but it's not quite as useful as the other spells in the tier. Alright, and now we've got the end game list. I'm going to try to go over this quickly as I can. I'll do my best. So at the end of the game, these are probably the spells you'll want to use with about this priority. A Fire, B. A Ice, B. A Lit, B. A Mute, F. A Rub, A. Bane, C. Blind, F. Brack, B. Confusion, F. Cure, C. Cure 2, C. Cure 3, A. Cure 4, S. Dark, F. Exit, A. Fade, B. Then we've got Fast is S. I was scrolling down on my list. Fear is F. Fire, D. Fire 2, C. Fire 3, B. Then we've got Fog, which I have at the D tier. Fog 2 is C. Harm, D. Harm 2, C. Harm 3, C. Harm 4, I'll actually put it at B. It seems odd, but I think it's still acceptable damage. It's a level 7 spell after all. Heal, C. Heal 2, S. Heal 3, A. After that, we've got Hold, which I'll put at D. You probably shouldn't cast it, but you know. Ice, D. Ice 2, C. Ice 3, A. Then we've got Invis, which I have here at D. Invis 2, S. Some people's favorite spell, Lamp, F. Life and Life 2 are both A. Lit 1, D. Lit 2, C. Lit 3, B. Then we've got Lock and Lock 2, both in the F tier. Mute, D. Nuke, A. Pure, F. Quake, C. Rub, F. Ruse, S. Saber, F. Sleep, F. Sleep 2, F. Slow, Slow 2, both F. Soft, F. Then we've got Stop, F. Stun, F. Temper, F. Wall, S. Warp, B. Exfer, F. XXXX, I have it C. And last up, Zap is D. That is my final tier list for endgame spells and through each of the other various levels as you're going. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll be able to make another tier list video sometime in the near future. And I guess before I end it, I should at least go over the top tier spells again. So in the S tier, we have Cure 4, Fast, Heal 2, Invis 2, Ruse, Wall. In the A tier, I have A Rub, Cure 3, Exit, Heal 3, Ice 3, Life, Life 2, Nuke. Then the B tier will be the end of like the more useful spells. And everything after that will be lesser used. For the end of the B tier, we've got most of the A spells, A Fire, A Ice, A Lightning, Brack, Harm 4, Fire 3, Lit 3, and wow, what is that other spell there? Oh, Fade! Duh, I'm dumb. And Warp. I was like, what's that pink spell? I was just going off of the pictures for all the spells. I didn't have that prompted up, but yeah. Those are all of like the B tier spells. Everything after that, C and below, they're useful still. Some of them are anyways. The C tier is still useful. D tier, mostly not so much. You know what? I can even go over the C tier one last time. So in the order of spells, we've got Bane, then Cure and Cure 2, Fire 2, then Fog 2, Harm 2, Harm 3, Ice 2, Lit 2, Quake, and XXXX. Yeah. D and below aren't worth mentioning again.